for folks who really enjoy like vintage or thrift finds, I wanted to take you through some of the found objects or the objects that we brought into the Meadow House, because I think some folks would enjoy the stories out of all the ones that we have here. But everything that we sourced in the Meadow House is very intentional and I thought really fit with the house. And some of these things I had in my possession already in my house in Brooklyn, so I brought those over, and I feel like they have a bit more space here to be appreciated. Sometimes my place in Brooklyn had a lot of things and they kind of got lost in the mix. I would say that some of the planters that we have here, so a lot of these vintage planters were things that I had in my space in Brooklyn and I think fit really well here. Some of these are actually new, so these are Italian pottery, which is a high-fired terracotta, and it gives that pinkish salmon kind of look, and I think that really worked well, particularly because we had this colored concrete that Sandra poured, and that salmon color I think was something really nice, and that fits well within the look of this house.
Now, where do you find some of these pots?
A lot of them are just like, you know, I got some in Junk, Brooklyn, which is like it's called Junk. It has a bunch of junk in it, but it's like these vintage finds. I like to go to estate sales or auctions. We have an auction house. The one that's closest to here is Bostwick's auction house, but we also have one in Vestal called Mapes. So I'm always kind of looking at those. They do online auctions, and then what you have to do is actually then go pick it up afterwards. Sometimes those auction houses will do estate sales, and so they'll do them at an actual house, and then you could actually go and pick up some of those things. So we went to one of those estate sales and we picked up one of the seats that's in the kitchen that I'll probably show you afterwards. And then also you could go to like eBay or Etsy or different vintage shops online and find things. That's how I got a lot of our copper pieces. So I get a lot of copper pieces from the auction houses here, but sometimes I'll find bits and bobs on Etsy. This is another great example. Just picked this up. And this is something that I found at Junk Brooklyn. So I was back in Brooklyn, and this holds a bunch of your matches. So I already had a brass case for our fat wood, for our wood stove. And this is for our coals, or like the charcoal that comes out of here, technically.
What a great match, by the way.
But you know what I've been using it for? I've been putting birdseed in here. I have. So I have this.
Look at that thing.
I know. So I've been using this for birdseed, and it was one of those things that I had been bringing birdseed down from the common house here, and I was like, it's so much better if I have birdseed because I have bird feeders down here. So you can see it's almost empty. I'm getting more birdseed delivery today. I just used this to actually scoop out the birdseed, and I was like, God, I need like a vessel to kind of take the birdseed out with. So I've been using our like charcoal container. So might have to use something else, but that has been what I've been using it for. Even though we've used the wood stove, we basically haven't been using it enough where we've had to clean out the charcoal yet. Some of the other pieces that I've gotten, this looks vintage, but it's not vintage, and I just bought that. I think it was like 20 or 30 bucks. So again, that's used to clear out the charcoal. And then this is a French basket, and I love baskets, like all different types of baskets. And I thought that this would be a great place to just put our wood. It kind of fits the wood perfectly because you could see that our Yodel stove is not that deep, and so we only need some small pieces of wood. So this basket is perfect for it, and this is something that you could actually lift up, take outside, fill the basket with the wood from outside, and then bring it back in.
Yeah, it's quite practical, and that's the challenge with some of these sometimes, is that it's not as practical.
Well, the other thing is I don't want things to look just ornamental. Like, it has to have some type of purpose, even if it is to make the house like cozier.
And these are well made too.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, when you're actually sourcing like vintage products, they were at one point like very well made. And so a lot of the things that you get nowadays is just like toss away. And there's a part of me that dies with that, because we don't want to toss away things. And the fact that it had been used and has a patina and looks beautiful and has a story, I think is something that I want to really be able to preserve. One of the other things too that we have back here underneath the plant is a milk stool. And this is, you could find these milk stools at estate sales around here, but this one I thought was so beautiful. This one's a little dusty now, but you could see that it was just hand carved out of probably some branches, and really love the patina of it. We also have an old milking stool in the bathroom as well, which I'll show you afterwards when we go into. But I feel like those are great for plant stands. They're also great to be used as stools as well, but I think that gives a bit more of the impression that we are in a more rural area, and I think that is really useful to have. This is also baskets for plants. So this is a basket that I picked up at one of our local auctions, and it's holding the Tenanthi right now, but these are baskets that people use to either hold water or grain. And I found a matching basket at another auction, but I didn't have a plant to put in it, so I was like, I'll let someone else have that. So that's another thing, like you often find these matching baskets in different auctions or matching things at different auctions, and sometimes you have to just be on top of it to find it. But you could get a really good deal, or you could get something that's really beautiful and quality made. This one's probably my least practical buy because I couldn't test out this fan in advance, but this is an old fan that was probably manufactured in like the 1950s, and it still works, and it was probably back in that day made in the USA still. So you could find retro, newer versions of this, but I doubt they're actually made in the USA. And you could see that this is an old fan because you could still put your fingers through here and probably would have chopped off like a child's hands. So the new ones actually have a thinner grill. But I didn't test this out because I got this online, and it is a little clanky. So it's one of those things where I'm like, it's kind of a cool fan and it looks cool, but it clanks after a while. And we have used it here, but to kind of push the air. So you can hear it has a little clank. It's not that bad, but...
Yeah, it's not a great listen.
Yeah, but it's not like the best.
Probably fix it somehow. You could work on it.
Yeah, I think...
Oh, you be careful with your fingers.
Yeah, I have to be careful. See, and that's what I mean. I think that it's improved. It is a really good fan, though. Like, you could feel the air come through. So that was one thing that I ended up getting, but you kind of want to, ideally, you'd want to go to an actual store and try it out, because if I heard that clank, then I might have actually gone with like the newer retro-made fan, although I don't even know if the newer ones sound any better, so to be perfectly frank. So I'd like to just highlight some of these baskets. So this basket that's holding this philodendron is a Chinese, I think, basket for grains. And I have a couple of these. I have one still in Brooklyn. It doesn't have this nice of a reddish color, but I brought that in. And so a lot of the vessels that I have for my plants have some type of like story. This is a newer basket, but you know, things that look really nice. This one as well. I think I picked this up at a vintage shop in Brooklyn. So again, just is a beautiful plant vessel. I like that cherry color to it. This is one of the plants that I brought in from outside. It's one of our citrus plants. I'll actually have to cover this on Plant One On Me because it's reverting back to its old stage. But this is a new terracotta planter, but I like the fact that it kind of has this older look to it. One of the other beautiful patinaed pieces is this old milk jug. And to get a patina like this copper, it doesn't have a top like that one does, but I figured that this would be a perfect place to have like our umbrellas or our brooms and things like that when you first walk in. And I love that color. I have another piece that I got outside at the auction that I have as a planter, but this kind of verdigris, bluish green, reddish, rusty container, I just absolutely love that.
Cool.
I should say that the umbrellas are also vintage too. So this is more of a sun umbrella, and then this one is more for rain. But it's one of those things that if you're like walking outside and you need to go to the barn, at least you have an umbrella that you could grab. I'd say some of the brass and copper pieces, like, so again, I picked this one up at Junk Brooklyn. I use this for digging out like potting soil or perlite or things like that and repotting my plants. So I have that and like some clippers. So these are useful for like little stems, but if you have like a really thick stem, I wouldn't be cutting with that. These are all done in India. So if you want to get like modern day brass work, chances are you're going to have it done in India. So India is kind of the center of brass work now. So we have a lot of like little pieces like that. A letter opener, little ruler, which I used the other day. You laughed at me when I was using it, but I needed to measure things. And then this is just one of many copper potting trowels that I have, or tools. And I just have one down here because sometimes you'll need something to like pot plants. All these are like vintage glass jars. So I like glass and vintage glass. I'm not like a over collector of it. And I try to find pieces that like really speak to me. So this color was really pretty. This one I had in Brooklyn. I think my roommate had that one initially, but this is one I picked up from Junk Brooklyn. It's weird because I go to Junk Brooklyn now and they don't have as many great glass pieces. So I think like people caught on to the idea, or maybe they don't source them as much anymore, or maybe they can't find them as much any longer. This is a piece that I got online. It was at a shop on Etsy, and I loved the shape of it. So this is a candle holder. This little piece comes, they have it taped down here, but you put that up and you put the waxed candle on top of it. But I don't have any wax candles here. I do actually, but I haven't been using them. But that's where I would put a candle. And right now I just have a fake little candle up there. My wax candle, I think, is in that drawer over there that I have, but you could use that. And then this I got, like, you know, to put the candle out. Psh, if it was a real candle, this one's fake. But we have like a lot of real candles everywhere. So you could burn real candles and use that as a way to put out your candle flame. Again, all these are like vintage pieces, not all of them, but a lot of them are vintage pieces. This is made by a local artisan called Gary Burkow, and I love the way he described how he makes this, but I haven't retained that information. So Gary, if you're out there, you could describe in a comment maybe how you make this, but he actually has a shop on Etsy as well, and so you can find him online. And then this is another vintage piece, and I love these vintage pieces because you just can't find another one like it. So it's like a one-of-a-kind piece, and I think that really brings a lot of one-of-a-kind nature to the house that we're in. Other things are the vintage books. I go to old bookshops, or sometimes if you go to like Abe Books, they have rare books that you could source there. I like sometimes the first editions that you could find. So some of these books, like this Alice in Wonderland book, is from, I think, the early 1900s. So you could see somebody signed that from 1902. And, you know, a lot of people will change books nowadays in the modern time for more sanitized language or anything along those lines. So getting the first editions, I think, are probably the best editions because it's initially how the author would have had it. So I like collecting that. I like the fact that they have these like linen gilded covers. And if they're in really good condition, then they almost feel like they're new, but you just want to be gentle with them. So this is a book that I'm reading now, School of the Woods by William Long. I think I'm like on chapter 5 or something like that. Every time I stay down here, I try to read a chapter. And then How to Know the Wild Flowers, and this has a lot of great illustrations in as well. So a lot of this information, maybe the scientific names have changed and whatnot, but a lot of the information has not changed. So having some of that older wisdom from these books, I think, really helps. You know, just nice to have. And one of the newer older books that I got, well, I showed you this before on our tour, but I have the Little Red Hen, but now I have Henny Penny, which was the name of like one of my hens growing up. And again, the illustrations are just divine. Absolutely love that. Big text makes you get through the book more easily. But I think these things are just so charming, and having them here really gives a sense of like, you know, lived in nature. I like kind of returning back to some of these older books. It's very, very charming. Here's some other books that I haven't really seen yet, but I think they're really pretty. Look at the covers of that. Days Off by Henry Van Dyke. I have no idea what this is actually about. 1907, so kind of an old school book, but really well taken care of. And maybe one day soon I will actually read that. Photography and or paintings. So that's something that I'm actually sourcing a lot more. This is a foraging girl that I picked up from Soulis Art. So it's Soulis Fine Art, it's out of the UK. And I saw this piece. I was actually looking for a painting with somebody foraging, and for this space in particular. And I was like, if it didn't work for this space, maybe we'd put it down in the speakeasy that we're like designing in the common house. But luckily this actually fit really well here. I had to move the painting that I had here out. But again, this is something that I purposely sourced, and when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And I'm so glad that we got it, because it's really nice to be able to look at it from the bed. And you'd mentioned before, it's nice that her eyes are looking into the room and not directly at you. So if you're like sitting in the bed and you have something like looking directly at you, that'd be kind of like weird. This is an old mirror that I don't know how old it is, but my roommate in Brooklyn had gotten this as a birthday present back in 2001. So I brought this, she left it there. So I brought this here, and it fit perfectly in this space. We haven't yet hung it, but that's another thing that I brought from Brooklyn that I think is really nice, and that will end up hanging. I mentioned all the older books, but I'll just kind of point them out. A lot of these books I've already had and that were in my collection in Brooklyn. These are an exception, I will say. So this is The Apples of New York, and it's actually 2 volumes. And I just thought this is really cool. Some of them, I thought I had some color photos in here, but these are all the old apples, all the different kinds of cultivars and everything. So I thought that was really neat. I first saw a book like this. My friend who, his great-grandfather, I think, was like the head of agriculture for the United States, and he has a farm in Beacon called Fishkill Farms. And he first had some of these old books with all the ancient old apples, and I was like, that's so cool. And I found that volume 1 and 2 in an old bookshop in New York City when I was there, and I was like, I gotta pick that up, because it kind of reminded me of that book that he had. These are all like old pieces that I had picked up just along the way. These are all like fruit bins and things like that. This doesn't have anything that's in it yet, but I kind of use them as like extra bookshelves or trinket shelves and things along those lines. So I think they have really nice patina, and you can see all the old handiwork on it. Sometimes you'll see, what are they called when they're like dovetailed together? Yeah, it's a dovetail. Yeah, so this one's not as old because it has the nails that are in there, but I have some that have the dovetail joints that I'll show you shortly when we go into the kitchen. This is another thing that I picked up like actually at the Bostwick's auction house. So these are great if you actually use them for storing food in and you're making like sauerkraut and things along those lines.
Is this the one we fixed too?
Yeah, you fixed it. So it was kind of janky on one side, but you even put in some new brass
reinforced
screws.
It with screws.
Yeah.
I wish this matched better, but It's on the inside. So
Yeah. How are you gonna get that patina though? That's tough, you know.
I'm gonna stain it and then
Yeah.
heat it up.
Yeah. So going into the kitchen, we have a lot of stuff in here, but I was collecting copper, and some of this is new, like this is actually new, and some of this is old. And this was handcrafted, I can't remember where, it's probably in India, but we had these in the bathroom as brass towel holders, and I ended up just using that for here. I had one that came with the set, but it was too short, and I wanted something that was longer so I could actually put like the mixers and the measuring cups and things along those lines. And a lot of these I sourced from either around here, like this I got at Bostwick's, and this wooden bowl right here, let me show you, I got from Bostwick's here, which I think is really beautiful. Yeah, it's wood.
Oh yeah, look how light that is.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, and look at the inside of it. It's really beautiful. And it was like $2. Like, how do you like beat that? It's so good. And then this is from Morocco. So they have like this kind of like goldish edge, and have one more piece like this in the kitchen. And all of these are like old clay bowls, and the shapes of them, I'm really a sucker for shapes too. But look at the shape of this bowl. I just think that's so beautiful, the way that it's, the inconsistencies in it. And you kind of want a bowl that has, that's like this kind of ancient clay on the outside, but then also has a refined version, because when you scrape your spoon or something against it, it doesn't make that annoying sound.
Yeah, it's not like chalkboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Nails on chalkboard.
Yeah, exactly. So these are all really beautiful. And then these, again, copper pieces that I've picked up here and there, like some mixing bowls and some colanders. This is another thing that you could actually hang on the wall, but we didn't have a lot of wall space, so this for me is just kind of sitting here. This is an old garlic holder. Actually, this is a new garlic holder, so these are places where you could store your garlic. There was a spider living in here, so that was like a spider home for a while. I let him live there until he died. I'm so sad. And then this is for making cheese, I think, in France. But I looked at these and I got them, and my idea initially was to actually put like little orchids in here. I thought this would be kind of a fun little place, because if you've ever seen like some of, pottery for orchids, they'd have like some holes on the side, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of a cool little thing. So have yet to do that as a project, but for right now, I have these as like little vintage pieces here. And I got some beautiful vintage glass. Let me take this out because this is so cool. And Sandra made the base of this. So we have our distilled water here. But look at this container. It's unbelievable. I've never seen a container like this. It's triangular with these curved edges, like this kind of blown green glass look. And it has this nice top. And yeah, I just think that's kind of cool. And then you made this for it to stay on top of. So it doesn't look too vintage, but it looks nice and new. And we used, what did we use, our red oak?
It's red oak wood.
Yeah.
Stain.
So that was really...
No, it's actually just finished.
It's just finished?
Yeah, without stain.
Oh, okay. So I thought that was really nice. And then this is, I ended up getting this at a... I don't know, it was like this nonprofit fundraiser. I don't even drink alcohol, but it was Japanese sake, and it came with like cups and everything. But I've just had this for probably 15 years. So whenever I think I need to dip into the alcohol, maybe I'll do that, or maybe I could cook with it. But I just really loved it. It had this kind of banana leaf. And then some, you know, what's a cottage without its like kind of ancient old cutting boards? And again, I really like the shape of these. So this to me it's functional, but it's also just really beautiful. We have our own cutting board right here. And, but these, you know, you obviously could use, but I just think it's also really beautiful.
This is for chasing after.
Yes. Now, if you want to like roll some dough or anything like that. I actually have a different rolling pin, and then I was at Bostwick's, and I saw this sitting there, and I saw the green, and I was like, that kind of looks like the green of our kitchen. I knew it wasn't exact, but I was like, I think that's going to be a better rolling pin. And I've been collecting wooden spoons. Some of these are new, some of these are old. I've been collecting wooden spoons for a while, so I have some from my house in Brooklyn. I think this might have been from my house in Brooklyn. And then I got a set of these from the Bostwick's auction house, and some of these are actually newer. So these were up at the Common House, and I brought them down. This I got at Junk Brooklyn, so it was like kind of like this old enamel pail, and so I just used that to put our, you know, scrubbing brushes in and things along those lines. And then I love green glass, and this kind of hand-blown green glass. I actually sourced this from France, believe it or not. So I loved the look of it and the length of it. And I almost broke it earlier when I was trying to chase a mosquito out of here. Yeah, beautiful vessels. Let me take you through this. This is a piece that I had in Brooklyn. So it says the Milk and Cream Company. So I got that at Junk Brooklyn. Somebody told me that this is what they do with old wine barrels. They take the old wine barrel and then they make these little pitchers out of them that would hold wine. So I thought that was kind of a cool vessel. This is a really well taken care of one, because I could find some in different stores and they don't look as well taken care of, but this one looked actually relatively brand new. So I liked that. And then these wooden pieces are new, hand-turned. These are done by my friend in Mozambique who runs the Mozambique Forest Center. It's amazing because they still smell like the wood that they've been turned from. And these are all some of his old his bowls that I will often use if I'm using, like if I have little snacks out, or like say like little nuts or like peanuts or like cashews or things like that. I love the smell of these. It's so beautiful. It kind of takes me back to Mozambique. So that's some of the stuff that we have. You just have to make sure that you're not putting like liquid in bowls like that, because they're never going to survive, or they're just going to probably get a patina on that you don't care for.
Well, why did you use this little stool?
I could have used that. So Sandra brought out this little stool. Ta-da! And this is something that we actually got in an auction house too, and we refinished. Not the top, but we just refinished the edges of it and painted it. Been very helpful. And same with like this little chair right here. Actually, all these chairs we got at the auction. This one I think I paid $5 for. And I love these. This is a Stickley chair, so that's like a kind of a famous furniture designer. There's still Stickley furniture out there that recreates some of these kind of old colonial looks. But I just love this seat, and it matched this table perfectly, and this table is new and the chair is old. So go figure. It's just like finding those things that actually look like it was a set, but they're not related to one another. I just want to open up some of these things here because there's certain things that I've found and got that are really nice. So I like to make deviled eggs. So this is a nice place to display your deviled eggs if you wanted to do that. And then this basket, I think I actually found this online on Etsy, and this was a really good deal. It was like $11 or something like that. So I try to find some of those good deals. Sometimes it's not possible, and like the thing that you're looking for is something that someone else is looking for as well. But wooden bowls, I'm a sucker for that. So these are a bunch of salad bowls that I got. I don't think these are like that old, but I got that at auction. And I've taken these out before on our main tour. but these are just really beautiful patinaed bowls that you'd, usually you're baking or making dough. And this has Munising, which is the name of a town. And I think they stopped making bowls like in the 50s, maybe 1954 or so. And so if you find things that have that kind of insignia on, then they are usually worth something. And I actually found that at Bostwick's as well. So other things like little tea kettles. So we have an electric tea kettle, but if our electricity is ever out, you could always put this like tea kettle on the stove, the wood stove. And because that's not obviously run by electricity, it's run by wood. So those are things that I think that really add to the house, but are just like little knickknacks. Maybe not something that we use regularly. Yeah, exactly. This one's actually new. I'm a tea kettle hoarder, as you could tell. This one's hand hammered. And then there's a shop called Leaf Shop, and they have a lot of old pieces. And you could actually hang this on the wall, and
It's a shelf?
It's a shelf, yeah. You could hang it on the shelf, or you could use it to display items. I also have this kind of elevated wood piece that is probably not that old, but is made to look old, but you could put your bread or your fruits or vegetables on here. Yeah, so I got that at Leaf Shop too. So, but you could tell that it has like kind of this handmade look. Okay, so some of the other things that I have in the kitchen, this is another water container. I loved it. It's so beautiful. This is done with clay, and this was the actual wood bottom for it, which gave me the idea to actually do a wood bottom for that watering vessel. So that's what Sandra did. I don't have anything in here now, but I think I would probably put like tea or something if I like made some tea. And then I had some other vessels here too for when we start to can a bit more. This one says saffrons and shallots, but you don't have to put like saffrons and shallots in there, obviously. And then this is a pickle jar, which I thought was really beautiful. So I kind of had this waxed cork, and again, this beautiful natural clay, and then even a place where you could bring out your cornichons, which I thought was really lovely. So there are things that I haven't really put to use, but that I hope to put to use as I start to use more of this kitchen down here, and when I start to do more of my herbs and stuff like that, I probably put all of these to good use. This is also really beautiful. I think this is a place where they, did cheese, but I have this with my shallots and my garlic sitting in right now. So I just thought that was beautiful clay with this kind of orange terracotta look. Some more of the green glass jars to hold like the rice and your lentils and things along those lines. And then we got this for, carving up your cheese and things like that. But brass and copper, if I'm not mistaken, they usually have them together because the electrolysis doesn't happen.
Well, I think brass is part copper. I think it's 40% copper.
Yeah, something like that. And bronze is actually related. Bronze is...
Maybe it's a mix of bronze and, well, this will take one Google search to figure out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think brass is made of copper.
But a lot of the brass containers that they use in like India, for instance, they'll have milks and things like that because it is antibacterial, because there wasn't any kind of refrigeration there. But I'm pretty sure that the brass and the copper, they have that usually together because of the electrolysis. It won't break down the metal, essentially.
Yeah, different metals touching can break each other down.
Right, which is you find out with the electricity.
Yeah,
sometimes
copper water lines too.
Exactly.
If you have a copper water line touching another metal ductwork, for example, then you're going to get corrosion.
Right. So we have all this. I don't have sugar in here. I actually have tea. This tea is too small, huh? Come on, I have tea in basically every single thing here. I have tea in the sugar thing, and I have tea in the coffee.
Not everyone's a hoarder like you.
I love tea, come on. This is actually new, but I love the seeded glass, and we have all of our oatmeals in there. And then this is all new, but it's hand done. This is manufactured in Ukraine, and the one that doesn't have the gold lip, I think, is Tunisia. So I actually bought these in Brooklyn, and Creating Comfort Lab, I think, is the name of it. But I saw these, and before we actually even picked the color of the green, this is what I had gotten for this kitchen. So the green really matched. These are also really beautiful. These are just like places that I'm storing our peppercorn and our granola and our rice. Oh yeah, you didn't even see that I got that. This is new. This is new but old. This is like an old duck decoy. Duck decoys go for a lot of money. This one is really tiny, and I thought this would be nicer to display in like a tiny house like this. And I just thought that was the cutest little duck. Look at that duck.
We have lots of ducks here on the pond anyways.
Yeah, lots of ducks. And future chickens eventually. But these are just really beautiful pieces. I like to put like single flower stems in it. And then this one was just so neat to see. This was the polar milk cooler. So you would put this in ice cold water, and obviously that, like, the terracotta stores that coldness for a while. And then people would store because before refrigeration, they would store their milk in there.
So this would slide over milk.
Yeah, just like that. Pretty amazing. And then these are all handmade, hand-blown glass jars, and we have a nice little vessel right here that you could store your water. So when we're actually creating like really nice a place for people to have food here. We haven't prepared many meals here. I think we prepared like 1 or 2 meals here. But eventually that'll be nice because we could do a nice tablescape. And speaking of tablescape, we have all of our utensils here. I actually got these off of eBay. It was just beautiful. I've never seen anything like this. I think this was old restoration hardware. It wasn't even a complete set, but there was plenty enough for us. Vintage napkin rings that I had sourced, and handmade whisks and things along those lines. Even these beautiful pieces are just for serving your pies or your cakes or things along those lines. Some of these pieces that I picked up, this is from the matching salad bowl that I had that I just showed you earlier. And this is a great way to make tea if you have loose leaf tea. So I just got this sort of like rose gold container, and this sits kind of on the cup like this. And so that's how you could steep your tea, which I thought was quite clever. I like to actually do plants in there hydroponically too, so that's another little thing that I do. Some more of these. I mean, I have a bunch of them, but hanging up. And then just like brass ladles and things. So you can see I kind of sourced from all sorts of different places. Even bottle openers. You like to open them up with your hands and on the edge of things, but I don't think you could open up a bottle on the edge of this now. You would damage it. No, that wouldn't be good. And then down here we have, actually I picked this one up. These I got for like, I don't know, like a couple bucks, and I got this at the reuse center here in Ithaca. So these are just like the other ones. Good stuff for scooping, like if you're scooping like rice or birdseed or things like that, use the other one for birdseed.
Use that one for birdseed.
No, I use the other one for birdseed. It's a little bit bigger. And then all of our linens here, which I think are useful when you don't want to like messy things, or if you're, little gloves for. I love the linens. Like, there's a lot of great textures and textiles in here from all different parts. So those are some of the things that we sourced. And I also have other bowls in here. I might as well just bring them out. These are from India. Again, I shared like a lot of the brass comes from India, and each one of these are a different design, which is really beautiful. And I also got, I'll show you some of this. I sourced these bowls from all over the place. This was a store in Brooklyn that I got this from. I think my friend made these. I bought that from her. And then these are vintage pieces. I think that they're done in Italy. They look like cabbage. And then I thought these were gorgeous. If I ever made a meal, And these would be the brass plates underneath that you would put your dish in. So if you had like a dinner plate, you could have it like that. I think that's so beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to actually making meals here and plating the meals too. That'll be really fun. Have to make time for that though. Oh, I should mention, I also like old recipe books. This is an old recipe book. Because I like to see, you know, first of all, they probably use ingredients that we don't use any longer, but also people didn't use like sugar like they do now and things along those lines. So I like having old recipe books that I could like flip through and just see how people cooked and maybe revive some of those recipes in a more modern context. This is one of the beautiful books that I found along the way. So I do try to collect some older recipe books from time to time. This is a beautiful piece that I got from Italy. So it's kind of a platter. So this is probably something that I would say is more decorative. Like I wouldn't be using that so much to say. And then this is kind of more modern, but it looks older. And this is a hand-hammered brass, and we actually got this on a shop from Etsy. And then these two pieces, I bought that from Soulis Art as well, which is fine art in the UK. And then this I actually got at Mapes, which is a auction house here in Vestal, New York. The last place that we can move to is the bathroom, and I'll show you some items in there. So let's go through some of the stuff in the bathroom. And we have some interesting things in here. I mean, first of all, if you saw from our whole tour, these are reclaimed from a 150-year-old barn. So that alone is pretty neat. And then you'll see that I have all these like old glasses. So this one I had some lights in as well. So you've kind of seen that. It's kind of a popular type of look, but it's really nice here in the bathroom because it feels a bit more spa-like. And even this is you know, one of those fake little lights that runs by battery, but at least I wouldn't burn the house down. But you can see that just kind of gives a nice ambience, particularly in the evening. It's really hard to see here during part of the day. This I got at one of the auction houses around here, and we just have a lot of extra soaps and things in here. So these vessels kind of serve as a place where you could get some of your extra stuff that's not just there for looks. This holds some of our plants as well. I actually bought this, I think, off of Etsy. And this is also another soap thing. I don't know exactly what to do with this. I'd probably use it elsewhere. But this was also hand done by Gary Burkhow. And he's a potter and an artist here in Ithaca, and I really love his work. And some of these vessels, I just got these over time, just like little vintage pieces that I've picked up that I've had in Brooklyn. This one I recently got. This is like an old Turkish jug that I got at the Cactus and Succulent show in the Lower East Side. So if you've watched my channel and Plant One On Me, I did a little vlog where I highlighted that, and it was one of the things that I actually got there. So that was pretty cool to see. These things I actually picked up locally. So I got these old bottles at Ithaca Reuse, although I don't think they're really that old, but I plan to actually have some of our, hold some of our liquid soaps in there. And then this is so cool. It's kind of bowed out, so when you put it on a flat surface, it kind of rolls back and forth, but I just have that there. But I think what I would want to do with it is actually put some really beautiful dried flowers in it. I think that would be a nice vessel for dried flowers. And then these two pieces, one is new, one is old. So this is a new, watering can. So I use this as a watering can in here. And then this is something that you could cook in. I initially bought this thinking that we could actually use it on the wood stove to boil water, but it's a little bit too large for our wood stove down here because our wood stove is super tiny. So I thought, you know what, I'll still leave it down here because this is a great place where if you want to wash your socks or dainty items or things like that. You could actually do that here. If our washer and dryer stopped working, maybe that's another alternative. We actually honestly haven't even used the washer dryer yet here, so we still have to kind of check that out and see if it actually works, because we bought it almost, 2 years ago? We just got the phone call from them. They're like, we have a 3-year warranty on it. We don't even know. We haven't even used it yet. And then this vessel, great story on this. You know, oftentimes when you go to auctions, they'll have things bundled together. So it was one of 3 vessels, and I have 2 more that I'm using outside, and that was one of the ones there, and I was like, God, that looks so beautiful, like in this kind of Moroccan style bathroom that we put together, and that one I just have left on the edge. Doesn't really kind of impinge on your, or infringe on your shower. And then I have other things, like this is one of those local buckets that I got, clearly something that was heavily used, and I just have this where our toilet paper, extra toilet paper is stashed. And then I had mentioned early on, like one of our other milking stools, so this is another milking stool that I'd found. This is a beautiful piece I picked up at local auction that looks like this wormy piece of really light wood, again, for probably getting out animal feed or things along those lines. This is one of the beautiful Haudenosaunee baskets that locally, I don't know if you could find this anymore, but you could find them like at vintage shops and things like that. So look how beautiful that's designed. I'm not sure if that's made out of sweetgrass or what that's made out of. And then this was given to me by a friend from Colombia. So this is a handcrafted basket from Colombia, from some of the indigenous people there, and it looks a little worn and tired, probably because I had it near my window, so it's kind of faded a little bit, and then I also had a plant sitting in it, so that was one of the things that I brought again from Brooklyn. And yeah, so just some like brass accoutrements. We have some really beautiful hand-woven materials from Ethiopia, so that was something that I wanted to do, because if Joey and Kia were ever down here, you know, Kia is Ethiopian, and Joey spent a lot of time in Ethiopia, so that was something that I thought would be really nice, kind of a piece of home for them. And then a lot of the brass are just handcrafted in India, so these aren't old, but they kind of have that old world feel, just because it's handmade and done in a hopefully lovingly manner. So those are just like little pieces that we have around our house. And I would say that's maybe not the fullest tour of all the vintage and found items that we have in the house, but a pretty good comprehensive one.
We'll be tracking more of our renovation journey here at Flock in future episodes. And we've been getting requests for our layout and design of the 600 square foot meadow house we recently finished. So you can head over to our website at flockfingerlakes.com, click on the Learn tab, and we have a 50+ page downloadable document for purchase there. We'll see you in the next episode.